الله عليك يا رسول الله وعلى روحك وبدنك الطاهرة. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليكم جميعا يا شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: وكلبهم باسط ذراعيه بالوصيد. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Since the dawn of time, human beings have been dependent on one thing for survival: animals. For they only dwell where water is. They provide food, clothing, shelter, companionship, safety, and each and every single one serves a purpose in the ecosystem, from the smallest frog to the largest whale. And such a blessing, ingredient to life, one would imagine would be taken care of, not mistreated, not abused. However, the human being has shown time and time again that they don't know what they have until they lose it. And I recall a beautiful saying from Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, in which he says, تُجْهَلُ النِّعَمُ مَا أَقَامَتْ فَإِذَا وَلَّتْ عُرِفَتْ. The blessing in front of you is not recognized. Until it leaves you, does it become recognized. And so such an ingredient to life would be something we should all recognize as a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many civilizations, from how much they revered this ingredient to life, began to worship animals, whether they were cats in ancient Egypt or cows in certain parts of the globe. This reflects the importance that these blessings, these creatures, serve in the life and timeline of man and womankind. However, such animals are not things to be taken lightly, brothers and sisters, because it is reported that in the Humane Society's blog, 1 million domestic animals are abused each year in the United States. And these are the animals that have been reported. Each year, 1 million of them are abused. However, the consequences of animal abuse are not taken into consideration as they truly should. Because one imagines that when an animal is abused, it's only the animal that's going through torment and terror. But in fact, the character of the human being who's abusing such an innocent soul, such an innocent creation from God, is also being changed and going through terror at the same time. The consequences of animal abuse, brothers and sisters, are that the human being becomes hard-hearted to the extent that studies have shown a vast majority of domestic abuse cases, and we said a few nights ago that they are roughly 12 million in the United States, 3 million in the United Kingdom annually, and expanding every single year, unfortunately. 71% of these domestic abuse cases involving family members or whoever lives under that same roof, 71% of the abusers also had a history abusing animals at the same time. And so you see the domino effect, how one begins small. And it's unfortunate that another person looks at an animal as small when they don't consider that this was also a creation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this message goes out to the Muslim world primarily, especially those who do not consider the life of an animal sanctified. Alhamdulillah, in the Western world, there's more initiative in preserving and protecting the dignity of all creations of God: animals, cats, human rights activists, animal rights activists that seek to ensure that animals are treated fairly. In the Middle East, they don't even care. They don't even distinguish between plant and cat, dog and rock, unfortunately. Therefore, it's perfectly fine and common, having gone to the Middle East multiple times, to see strays, to see abuse, and no one batting an eye, unfortunately. However, there are exceptions, definitely. The ulama and maraja in Iraq have made it clear, in Iraq, in Iran, wherever the scholars of Ahlul Bayt are found, and not to forget also the scholars of other schools of thought, have made it clear that doing such things is a sin in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, it's important and paramount to remember that one thing can lead to another, brothers and sisters. 71% of abuse in homes, domestic violence, also has a correlation to animal abuse. These people had a history. So don't be too surprised if one day they're mistreating the cat, then they will begin mistreating their own family. Another study has shown that there is a direct correlation, a link between serial killers and those who've abused animals in their previous history. So you could imagine this is the third tier in the barometer. You begin with those who started hurting and abusing and finding pleasure in mistreating animals. La samahallah. The next step is they begin to mistreat their fellow human beings, their family members. Then they unleash themselves on society. The Columbine shooters in Colorado many years back, those two teenagers were reported to have boasted about the animal cruelty they were doing. It was something normal to them. It was something fun. They got a pleasure out of hurting other creations, a creation that cannot speak for itself, cannot defend itself, and they wanted to up that because of their tolerance. Like everything in life, you have a certain amount, after which you want more because you've gotten used to it. The regression effect has now taken place. And anything in life, of course, that's why you never indulge on one too many things. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam would say, al-'adat qahirat, that which is common, done in repetition in your life is reprehensible. Don't be in the habit of constantly doing something. And this has a very philosophical message to it, that if you find yourself 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, and your habits never change, that is extremely reprehensible. Therefore, this goes in line with consumption of certain drugs and regimens or certain foods. One thing leads to the other. Your tolerance begins to increase. You would like to increase that. And if you take it to the world of torment, unfortunately, those who find pleasure in bringing about fear in the lives and eyes of that which is weaker than them, they eventually want to up that scale. Therefore, studies have shown that there was a direct link between serial killers and animal abuse. Where are most animal abuse cases happening, brothers and sisters? The Humane Society has made it clear that roughly 1 million domesticated animals fall victim to abuse each year in the United States. However, a vast majority of animal abuse doesn't happen in the home, and it doesn't happen in the street, although it happens there in a very significant amount, but it happens much more in factory, industrialized farms. 99% of all animals bred for consumption in the United States alone are raised in factory farms, industrialized, so that they are able to be consumed. And 10 billion animals go through the factory farm system they were born into, and they die being mistreated to the highest degree. The factory farm industry ensures two things: that they maintain high production, maximizing production, and also minimizing profit, cost. Make sure it doesn't cost that much. So what do? We have to also maximize the production. In the middle of that, you find a level of extreme inhumane treatment by squeezing the animals into tight areas. Chickens, 300 million of them live in a space the size of an A9 paper and do not move and only live just to lay egg after egg after egg, and then they are taken to where they need to be and killed and neglected in a sealed, closed environment with artificial light. Chickens to cows to pigs, many of these animals are subject to poor treatment and abuse ultimately. Animal abuse is not necessarily only happening in homes. No, the human being, normally when they take a pet, if it's not negligence, then they are usually taking care of their animals. They love their animals, especially their dogs and cats and others as well. However, the animals in factory farms, brothers and sisters, are going through hell and back, born literally in that institution and then die with very little vitamin, with very little light. If anything, no light, artificial light, space very closed, and only serve the purpose of feeding other human beings. What's the alternative? Or what are solutions to such a thing? Number one is to not promote this industry. As difficult and almost near impossible as it is, it's possible. It's very challenging, but it's possible. And we Muslims are at an advantage in doing so. How? We, number one, do not consume food from the factory farm industry, because that food is not halal. Even if it was slaughtered halal, brothers and sisters, it wouldn't be considered halal meat due to the poor treatment the animal went through, because there are prerequisites when it comes to consumption of halal food that the animal did not have to go through torment before it was killed, that it was treated with respect, it was facing the qibla. How could the animal face the qibla if it's trapped in like a 4x4 inch zone the whole entire life, facing the qibla, treated well? If it's pregnant, it is not going to be slaughtered. And when the slaughtering happens, the details about humane slaughtering, that is dhabiha in Islam, brothers and sisters, are very fascinating, such that it gets to a point where this animal lives a wonderful life and it serves the purpose that ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it to serve. The question arises, then if Islam is all about peace to the human world and the animal world, then why are animals being slaughtered? Surely a religion like Islam, a religion of peace, in all definition of that meaning, of that word, brothers and sisters, would also ensure that animals would be subject to that peace. Why are they slaughtering? Why are they being slaughtered? Allah has allowed us to consume animals given the right conditions that are met. Of course, to slaughter an animal for no purpose is absolutely forbidden in Islam. Many people are doing this without even realizing, because the same people who are saying it's cruel to slaughter animals, your religion is not a peaceful religion, are the same people going out hunting every single season, killing bighorn sheep, killing in Africa, in the safari, elephants, giraffes, killing all of these and not consuming them. They're just doing it for fun, trophy hunting. That in Islam is forbidden. You cannot simply kill for the purpose of having the head held in your wall and all the meat not taken to a facility that will provide it to those who are hungry, who are in need. Yes, you can hunt if the purpose is to get food from that for yourself or for others. But for the sake of just trophy hunting, that's forbidden. But the same people who would tell you it's very violent to slaughter animals in Islam, don't consider the treatment that it goes through beforehand, the respect and dignity that it's given beforehand, and will be the same people who will hypocritically find nothing wrong in going out and hunting for prizes and trophies. Not to forget as well that people who do this with the intention to provide food, that's another story. That there is room for, brothers and sisters. Besides eating halal as the alternative to help combating such an industry, which ultimately is going to stay here until inshaAllah ta'ala Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam puts an end to this cruelty. Because truly it shouldn't take a savior, a messiah to come and tell people this is wrong. How many documentaries have you seen or heard of done on the inhumane treatment of animals in factory farms across the United States? Everyone sees that it's wrong, but people can't help but they have to buy a chicken nugget from their McDonald's, or they have to buy their hamburgers from their local supply chain, or they have to go to the fast food joint to make sure that they eat their sandwiches, understanding where the meat came from, yet continuing to buy and buy and buy because it tastes too good. The animals that go through these, brothers and sisters, ultimately the food is not healthy for you. How can you sleep at night knowing what you are consuming was something that saw nothing but fear and torment at the end of the day? Therefore, what are some alternatives? Halal food. Halal food. Some will say, but there are some halal organizations that don't do the best job, then that food is not halal. That food is not halal. If the animal sees, for example, the tool that will be used to slaughter it, and then the animal is then slaughtered, then that is not halal meat. It has to be done perfectly. And there are some organizations who do a decent job ensuring that the meat that comes to your plate at dinner or on Thanksgiving went through the process Islamically and humanely, where all of these prerequisites are taken into consideration. Another alternative is to make sure you read the label or you read the certifications that are stamped on the food that you buy. I really can't tell you much about the meat out there because it's not halal meat, so I'm not going there and looking at the labels. But as far as, let's say, milk or eggs, let's say, for example, eggs, if you see it says pasture raised or cage free or free range, then that should motivate you to buy it before buying something that doesn't have these. Because then you understand that this animal at least wasn't going through so much problem and difficulty before it was slaughtered or before it had to lay all of these. What is the punishment Islamically to someone who abuses an animal, brothers and sisters? In Islam, is there a punishment from the divine when it comes to an animal abuser? Because many will make a distinction that the life of an animal is not as sanctified as the life of a human being by virtue of the human able to slaughter an animal for consumption. Only the animals that are slaughtered for consumption, Allah has given leeway for us to slaughter and consume. Part of the reason why they were created according to our worldview. However, every other animal that is not made for that reason, say the animal could be pregnant, or the animal has reached its limit and the meat would not be meat you would consume, or it serves a greater purpose than to be slaughtered. Say it serves for plowing fields, or it serves for being present and ensuring other animals are safe at the same time. Whatever the purpose may be, if it serves a purpose in society, in the ecosystem, by removing it or killing it will be haram to do, forbidden to do. So what would be the punishment? Because indeed, يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. Everything between the heavens, the skies, and the earth praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and glorifies Him. The Malik, the Quddus, the Aziz, the Hakim. Everything, which means the trees, the animal kingdom, nature, human beings, the jinn, the angels, all glorify Allah. And so this creation is praising the Lord Azza wa Jal. So what will Allah do to someone who kills an animal unjustly? The answer is hellfire. Yeah. The Holy Prophet of Islam, there has been an incident that was recorded that a lady was sentenced to hellfire for trapping her own cat in a cage and not feeding it due to negligence. The hadith records that this lady was sent to punishment in the afterlife as a result of doing so. If you're going to have an animal, make sure that the animal is treated fairly and justly. This lady, during the life of the Holy Prophet of Islam, it was reported that she just got her cat, left it in a cage and just neglected it, whether it was done on purpose or not on purpose. She didn't leave any food and she was just negligent about it. This lady, Allah held her accountable for on the day of judgment and will be held accountable on the day of judgment. The tradition is mutawatir, narrated by Abu Huraira in the books of our brothers and narrated by multiple sources in our books. It's an accepted tradition that there was this lady who did this act. Another incident, brothers and sisters, we find is when Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, the treatment of an animal, keep that in mind, was going to Hajj. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam went to Hajj over 25 times. And he would go to Hajj using a particular camel. And so one time, the camel that the Imam would use to go to Hajj with, he went to Hajj with this camel, and the camel decided not to move. It decided to not follow orders as it normally would. And so the Imam was told by those around him that use the stick and whack it so it can begin to move. The Imam replied, "Don't think I don't have that stick, but I will never use it against the camel." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because if I begin hitting this camel with my stick here, how can I assure and make clear that my Lord on the day of judgment will not respond to me and ask me and question me that why did you treat the animal that was taking you to Hajj every single year in such a manner?" Of course, to whack, let's say, the camel or anything that's taking you a long distance, wouldn't be something considered inhumane. But the Ahlul Bayt wanted to make a clear message that even acts such as this, take into consideration. Will it bring about discomfort? Will it bring about, a sense of unease when it comes to this animal? For the Imam fears that Allah will question him, why did you whack the animal? And so this was a lesson to indicate to us that even gestures such as this should be taken into consideration, let alone putting these innocent creatures that don't have a voice to defend themselves and through torment. Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, one of the companions of the Holy Prophet, the father of Umar bin Sa'ad la'natullahi alayh, was seen to have burnt an ant colony. You've seen like the ants when they have a mount and it's made of dirt, and the mount is visible and you can see the ants going and coming, but in their hundreds. Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas saw that ant mount in the colony and he lit it ablaze. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam reprimanded him, saying, "La yu'adhibu bin nar illa khaliqun nar. Hiya ummah ta'budullah." He said that no one has the right to burn or punish or discipline anything with fire except the Lord of fire. And this that you burnt was an ummah, was a family, was a society that worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you just burnt it. He reprimanded him for doing so. If there was no need, then this was a matter that was totally unaccepted. But if there was a need, say it's bringing about havoc to society, that didn't seem like it was the case. Hence Rasulullah came and reprimanded him. No one can punish anything using fire except the Lord of fire. And this was an ummah. You know how we say the Muslim ummah, the Muslim nation? This was a nation that would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The story in Sulaiman alayhi salam in the chapter, Surah An-Naml, indicates to us that the ants have a level of consciousness enough to recognize the prophets of Allah. Hence why the ant says, "Move and run away, for Sulaiman and his soldiers are coming." The ant recognizes the prophet of their time. Move and take shelter. Nabi Sulaiman tabassama, he started smiling, and he started laughing at the same time, as a result of this ni'mah that he has been given in understanding the language of the ant. If the ant is something deserving of respect, deserving of a level of dignity which is meant to be honored, then how about the other creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are mistreated on a daily basis? One time Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was making his way with his men and all the military might he had, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to one of the battles that happened during the 23 years of propagating and spreading Islam. As Rasulullah was making his way with all the soldiers and men he had, Jibreel informed him. Jibreel informed the Holy Prophet of Islam that there is a bird in the distance, a bird that has laid an egg, and your army will continue moving and it'll pass over this bird and its egg. Due to the fact that it had just given birth, it's not able to fly and take shelter. And so, O Holy Messenger of God, shift your army towards a different direction around it. Rasulullah ordered that his men, one of them goes to the bird, wherever the bird was ahead in the road, and places and plants a flag near it, such that when the army proceeds, it sees the flag, it goes to the side around it and not over it, crushing the animal. When the army shifted, Rasulullah was informed by the men, Ya Nabiullah, why are we moving? Is the enemy that direction? What's going on? The response came, no, there's just a bird that had laid an egg and we don't want to crush it. The rahmah Rasulullah would display, brothers and sisters, is so much such that it indicates to us that we should take into consideration the dignity of all lives in this world, from the animal kingdom to the insects, especially towards the human beings at the same time. One day Nabiullah Musa alayhi salam, during the munajat and moments in which he would converse with Rabbul Alameen, being Kalimullah, the one who would communicate to the Lord, he was told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Musa, bring to me next time you come to the munajat sessions in Jabal al-Tur, come to me with someone who you believe you are greater than. Nabiullah Musa understood the order and he went. He began to search around for someone who he believes Nabi Musa is greater than. And so he looked around, he looked at the thief, he looked at this person, he looked at that person. And as he's trying to pick someone who he has confidence they are not greater than Musa in the eyes of Allah, he becomes hesitant and he becomes disorientated. When he sees the thief, he's thinking, what if that thief, he is a thief, known thief in the community, but what if he has a closer relationship to Allah than I do? Because what do I know? Maybe they made istighfar and tawbah and they've left their past. I might not know that they did that. And so what if I bring a thief to the Lord on the mountain and my Lord tells me, no, he did tawbah, and as a result I've raised his level even higher than your level. And so he would look at the thief and he would become hesitant and disorientated. He would look at this person, he would become hesitant. That person, he would become hesitant, until right before he gave up, he saw a stray dog. Nabiullah Musa looked at the stray and he thought to himself, surely that this dog is something my Lord sees as less significant than me. It's a stray dog. It's barren. It doesn't have an owner, nor does it serve a purpose. It's not a guard dog, nor is it a farm dog, nor does it help in any affair in life. On top of that, it's what you would call homeless. It's a stray. This animal, I, the Prophet of Allah, Rasul, Ulul Azm of the top 5 grand prophets, a Nabi as well, and a prophet with a global universal message, I must be greater than this animal. Nabiullah Musa alayhi salam takes the rope and the leash. He brings the dog with him towards the munajat and where he meets the discussion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As he's going, he's holding this dog with him and he begins to think, who am I to say? that I am greater than this dog. Everything in life glorifies Rabbul Alameen. And I, in these last moments, maybe didn't glorify Allah as much as the dog has been glorifying Rabbul Alameen. You know what? Who am I? He begins to unloose the rope and he lets the dog go. He returns back to his Lord on Jabal al-Tur and he says, Ya Allah, I am back. And the response came, O Musa, did you not bring anyone with you? He says, I brought no one with me. But didn't you hear the order? He says, yes, I heard. So how come you didn't bring anyone who you believe you are more significant than them? He's like, oh my Lord, I looked everywhere and I couldn't find anyone who I know is less significant than me. Allah replied, according to the hadith, what about that stray dog? Nabiullah Musa replied, yes, my Lord, even the stray dog, I thought to myself, maybe it's closer to my Lord than I am. To which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to the hadith, replied, وَعِزَّتِي وَجَلَالِي, by my majesty and by my might. Had you brought even the stray dog here, I would have removed your name from the list of prophets. It would have reflected on your character, O Musa, that you considered another makhluk, another creation, more significant than you. Who are you, O human being, to dictate significance and importance and integrity and dignity? I made you all one creation. Allah created us all on one level. Even if you would have brought the stray dog, I would have punished you as a result by removing your name from the list of Anbiya. But because you didn't, O Musa, I have now elevated your rank in the list of Anbiya. Indicating, brothers and sisters, that those who look down upon other creations due to their mental deficiencies, due to their conscious limit and extent that is less than ours, does not indicate that significance of their life is less than ours. For we look at our own brothers and sisters who have a difficult time with perception, with cognition, and we don't look at them as less significant. They are as human beings as we are, and in many cases more alive than we are, for they are more conscious in the fact that their Lord has created them in the best of forms. And many of our brothers and sisters do not complain. And if they were to complain, it wouldn't be about, for example, the deficiency that they have. It would be about many things that don't relate to their creation. Many of us, the slightest bruise or cut or paper cut, we begin to complain night and day. Yet those who suffer on a daily basis are grateful, and many times more grateful than the human being. One beautiful incident has been reported that during the life of one of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they beseeched the Lord, show me someone who is very close to you, O my Lord. O Allah, show me. Nabi Musa alayhi salam, this prophet here, again, he says, Ya Allah, show me the closest to you. For there was a discussion at one point when Nabi Musa was giving a sermon, that he was saying, I am the prophet of God. I am the closest to my Lord. I am the closest and no one comes near to my Lord than me. And the response came, O Musa, there is someone close, not just you. And if you want to see them, go to this part of town, go to that home, this is their address, and you will meet them. Nabi Musa is shocked and dumbfounded. Who else is this close to my Lord? He goes and he finds a person, an old, according to some traditions, lady who cannot see, who cannot hear, who doesn't have limbs, arms and feet. And this lady is not able to speak in the best way, has a difficult time speaking. Nabi Musa alayhi salam saw this person and he began communicating with them to the best of his ability, and they began to reply, saying, look, I am very grateful. My Lord is so good to me. He did not give me eyes to see haram, nor did he give me ears to hear haram, nor did he give me hands to do haram, nor did he give me feet to go to haram, nor did he give me the ability to speak haram. And that is why my Lord has been so good to me. In the most difficult of situations, this person, all they are doing is thanking their Lord. How many brothers and sisters you've seen who have deficiencies, who are not able to achieve the many things many people who are normally able to achieve, yet so grateful and bring about so many lessons and moments of inspiration and wisdom to all of us, brothers and sisters. That being said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take all into consideration when it comes to the treatment we provide to animal and human. One of the prophets of Banu Israel, and we're bringing a lot of stories from the prophets of Banu Israel today. But this one, not Nabiullah Musa alayhi salam. One of the prophets of Banu Israel saw that there was an individual who had passed away, and he had saw their grave. Looking at this person's grave, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh my Lord, what is the state of this person's grave, this lonely grave? How are they doing in the afterlife? Are they in a good place, a better place? Because their grave doesn't seem to be like it's in a good place. It's this old, lonely grave." The response came back that this person, "Oh my slave and my prophet, this person is mu'allaq, between heaven, hell, not here nor there." Have you seen like a balancing act? When someone is neither this side or that side, but just the slightest push will bring them here or bring them there. This person needs one thing just to push them to heaven. This person is neither in hell or heaven. If they can achieve one more thing for their sake, in their name, niyabatan anhum, in this dunya, they will go to heaven, but they're just not there yet. Their a'mal in this dunya was half-half, 50-50. So what is the response, Ya Allah? What do I do? Go find their nearest kin and tell them to give sadaqah on their name. They will instantly fall, the scale will tip in their favor, to heaven. They looked around and they found their son. This individual, this prophet of God, found his son. And he said to him, "Listen, I spoke and communicated to my Lord. You have a father that passed away. They're in a very shaky position. If you give sadaqah to them in their name, Allah will tip the scale in their favor and they will enter heaven. Yalla, give sadaqah." The response came, "Listen, my dad, give him sadaqah? My dad, listen, I don't have anything, I don't have nothing, no money, nothing. I can't give anything to sadaqah. And I'm just a fisher." This person was a fisher. All they would do, their form of employment was fishing. Business has been very bad, and the very little that I have, I'm spending it only on myself. Listen, okay, Prophet, this is all I'm doing. I don't have the means to give sadaqah. He says, anything, just give in his name right now. Give it, and your father will be blessed. He says, "Look, I said I don't have anything. My fish, they're not even good quality fish. No one wants to buy. So I just take it for myself." He said, "Look, I beg of you, my Lord commanded me, do something about this." He said, "Okay, listen, ready?" He literally, and one could imagine, out of annoyance, he picked up water in the palm of his hand. He's like, "Okay, I'll give this to my dad in his sake." And he threw it on the grass. He's like, "There you go." He threw it on the grass, and then that's it. He's like, "That's it. That's it. I'm doing that in my father's name." Oh, what did he just do? He just picked up water from the lake that he's there every single day fishing, and not the best quality of fish anyways, and he just picks up the water and throws it on the grass. The Prophet then asked Allah, "Ya Allah, what happened?" The response came, "This person's father is now relaxing in paradise." How? They barely did anything. When the person picked up the water, he threw it on the grass. It wasn't the grass that needed water, but there was a small organism living on that grass that was dying. He threw water and it landed on this small creation. It got the water and it survived and lived. But the thing is, he did that. Before he did it, he said, "I do this in my Father's name." He provided life to another creation of Allah in the name of his Father without realizing. This served as a sadaqah jariyah, and his father then entered the heavens when he made sure that another creation of the Lord was provided for. And this is something this guy did unintentionally, passively. He didn't even realize he was doing it. Yet look how much it helped, such that it determined hell and heaven for this individual. Now imagine providing, brothers and sisters, bringing assurance, bringing comfort, love, food, and safety. That segues to, then, is it recommended to own pets? In Islam, is it recommended to own an animal? The response is yes. It is recommended. There are specific animals, however, but all animals, there is no hurma on owning. Not even dogs. It's not haram to own a dog. In some cases, it could be necessary, essential, whether it's a guard dog, farm dog, a seeing eye dog, a dog that helps you in your day-to-day affairs. There's no hurma on owning pets, but there are certain pets that are mustahab to own, such as pigeons, some say, such as if you're going to own a cat, according to some of the ulama, that the fur of the cat, make sure it doesn't fall on your clothing and cling on as you are praying, for this will nullify the prayer. And this includes leather, unless if the leather was slaughtered from an animal that is consumable, for example, in a halal country, slaughtered in a halal way, let's say, or if not in a halal country, slaughtered in a halal manner, and the leather is then worn, that is perfectly allowed. Otherwise, if it's fur, then it's not allowed to be worn, except with the opinion of Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Sistani, Hafidhahullah, where he gives an exception that if a fur from a cat is on you as you're praying, this will not invalidate the prayer. So there are some animals that are allowed to be owned, however, with the condition you're able to provide and treat them fairly, brothers and sisters. And no one treated their animal more fair than Sayyidu Shuhada. On the 10th of Ashura, brothers and sisters, when it was Abu Abdullah alayhi salam's turn to go and defend Islam, he actually fought his way and made it to the banks of the Euphrates. And when he made it to the banks of the Euphrates, he went and he was about to drink water, and he saw his horse was also extremely thirsty. Because it wasn't just the men and women who were thirsty, brothers and sisters, it was also the animals. And so he was about to drink Sayyidu Shuhada Salamullahi alayhi, and he looks at the animal. And this is found in the Maqtal. He looks at and he says, Anta atshan wa ana atshan. You are thirsty and I am thirsty, and I will not drink until you drink. The animal raised his head as if he understood what Sayyidu Shuhada was saying and did not drink water. Abu Abdullah assured that his horse was treated so well that he wouldn't drink unless the animal began drinking, for many reasons. To be fair, to express the nature of merciful character and upright character, like Rasulullah would, and the many interactions Rasulullah would have with the animal kingdom. We mentioned the story of the bird, we mentioned others as well, but also to assure that his dignity was preserved, so that they do not say, look, Abu Abdullah drinking water while his horse is drinking at the same time. Look at the passion and principled nature Sayyid al-Shuhada has. One of the ulama by the name of Sayyid Hujjatul Islam al-Muslimin Muhammad Baqir al-Shafti. Hujjatul Islam al-Muslimin Muhammad Baqir al-Shafti. This alim was a top scholar in Iran at the time. And this alim, he was a very humble scholar, a very modest one. He wouldn't accept payments from his students, and he would teach his lessons many years ago. He wouldn't accept money. He was so humble, such that it reached a point where he didn't have enough money to bring home food to his family. And so one day he had just enough, and he went to the store, the meat market, this alim, Hujjatul Islam, Muhammad Baqir al-Shafti, Radwanullahi ta'ala alayh, and he purchased a fine piece of steak, let's say. He purchased some meat, and he went on his way to his home. On his way, he saw a stray dog, a pregnant one, and it had its pups near it. And the puppies were trying to take milk from this dog, but because of the malnutrition and no food, no milk is coming for these young dogs. So Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Shafti saw, or Hujjatul Islam Muhammad Baqir al-Shafti saw that this animal was hungry and it was begging for food. And so this alim, as hungry as he was and his family was, he took the meat that he had and he gave it to the animal. He says, here, eat. He went home, his wife asked him, any food? He said, no, not today. Today, let's just continue without any food. This Sayyid, or this alim, noticed that when the dog was given meat, Sayyid Muhammad Rida Tinkabuni mentions this in his book about the biographies of the ulama. When he gets to Hujjatul Islam Muhammad Baqir al-Shafti, he mentions that the dog, according to this alim, raised his head or her head and looked up to the sky. as if it was in an interesting state of supplication. As we mentioned, the Quran says everything praises Allah. And so he looked at it behave in this manner, raise its head. Later on, this alim received a knock on his door from some man saying, "Oh, Sheikh, listen, you have a distant relative who had passed away recently. They didn't have any direct family members, no children, no parents, no cousins. You are his closest relative. By the way, this man who had just passed away was what you would say a multi-millionaire, and you had inherited everything he left behind." This alim received all this money. He used it to his advantage by giving it back to society and revitalizing society's economy, because it was very weak at the time as well in Iran at that time, during I believe the Qajar dynasty. And he spent so much back to society that he was accumulating wealth to such an extent, the Shah at the time would ask him, "Can I borrow some of your wealth and I'll pay you back?" He became madyun to the Sayyid as to how much wealth he had. He reached such an old age at one point, and the amount of money he had was such a high amount that they would have to carry the alim due to his old age. As he was being carried to go to the course or the lessons or the masjid, he would have money and he would just throw it to the people from how he was blessed by serving the creation. Have mercy to the creation, the Lord of mercy will have mercy upon you. If the dua, brothers and sisters, of an animal is accepted, how about the dua of the children of Aba Abdullah, or the dua of the children of Imam Al-Hassan Al-Mujtaba? You find on the 10th of Muharram, Al-Qasim, son of Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam, was there joining the members of those who would give their life for Sayyid al-Shuhada. However, when he began to approach Aba Abdullah, he said to him, "My beloved uncle, I want to fight and make you proud." Aba Abdullah would look at him in the eyes and he would think to himself that this is the only memory I have for my brother Al-Hassan alayhi salam, because Aba Abdullah and Imam Al-Hassan were extremely close to one another. They had been with each other since the beginning, and they saw all the torments. They saw when they attacked Lady Fatima. They saw when the Holy Prophet left. They saw the strike on their father. And they saw all the turmoil. And so Imam al-Hussein has no one to remind him other than his nephew Al-Qasim of his brother Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. So he did not let him go. He said, "My beloved nephew, go back to your mother. Today is not a day for you." And they say he was about 11 years of age, maximum 14, but most likely 11 years of age. He goes back to his mother, Ramla, and he says to her, "Mother, he doesn't let me go." She says to him, "No, go back. Tell him I want you to allow me to fight and represent my father on that day." And so Al-Qasim went to Aba Abdullah and said to him, "My beloved uncle, allow me to fight. I remember my father once told me, O Qasim, there will be a day when your uncle Aba Abdullah will be lonely. Make sure you represent me on that day. Do not let my presence on that day not have any significance. You go and you represent me and make me proud." And he says to his beloved uncle, "Aba Abdullah, allow me to go and fight. Allow me to represent my father." This was the dua of Imam al-Hassan. Make sure, inshaAllah, you represent me. And the dua of the Ma'soom is always answered. Aba Abdullah allows Al-Qasim to go and fight. Al-Qasim goes to the battlefield, shining like the moon. He stands in front of the enemy and begins to say, "In tankuruni fana najlul Hasan." If you don't know who I am, then I am the son of Hassan. Sibtun Nabi al-Mustafa wal-Mu'taman. I am the grandchild of the one chosen by Allah, the Prophet of Islam, Rasulullah. Now you know who I am. They say when Al-Qasim went to the field, he went forth and he began to fight. His mother would watch and would watch with fear. Al-Qasim went and he fought, killing a number of them, for they understand that Banu Hashim is a group not to mess with. After which Al-Qasim came back to Aba Abdullah. Aba Abdullah once told him, O Qasim, how do you see death? Al-Qasim replied, Inna al-maut bayna yadayk ahla min al-asal. That death with you, O my uncle, is sweeter than honey. Al-Qasim went back and he fought the enemies until they surrounded him and began to cover all corners. And Al-La'in came and struck Al-Qasim alayhi salam till he fell to the ground. And he called out, Uncle, come and help me. Uncle, come and help me. Oh, my beloved uncle, where are you? Abu Abdullah ran to the field and he removed the enemies away. And he looked at his beloved nephew saying, oh, how the heart hurts knowing that I am here when you call me, but I am not able to help you. He then carried Al-Qasim back to the tents. But brothers, how can you carry a body? Brothers and sisters, how can you carry a body that has limbs on all parts of the ground? He carried every part of him back to his tent. His mother was there, Zainab was there, and Abu Abdullah was looking over his body. Zainab said to Abu Abdullah, oh Hussein, move away from the tent. His mother would like to cry without you in his presence, for she wants to mourn over her son without you watching her weep. Abu Abdullah left the room and his mother threw herself over Al-Qasim's body, saying, Wa Qasima wa madluma wa shahida, inna lillah وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. O Allah, we ask you on Qasim, son of Hassan al-Mujtaba, to grant us the ziyarah of Abi Abdullah in this dunya. O Allah, we ask you on Qasim and we ask you on Al-Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhum as-salam to grant us the shafa'ah of all those who laid their lives on that day of Ashura. O Allah, make sure and allow us to ensure that any creation of yours is treated with dignity and respect and reverence that it deserves. From the animal kingdom to the humans, everything does tasbih in your name. O Allah, we ask you to never remove the love of Sayyidul Shuhada from our hearts, to make sure that this pandemic is removed and alleviated from the souls of all those affected. Oh Allah, we ask you with a Suratul Mubarakatul Fatiha. But before it, a salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma